It's Monday, May 23rd, 2016, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Admissions Live. Hi, everybody. I'm your guest host today. My name is Adam Castro. I am the Vice President for Enrollment Management at Bloomfield College in New Jersey. And on today's broadcast, we're going to be talking about the value of micro-scholarships. Admissions Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network, offering viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Live broadcasts allow viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussions around the most important issues in the industry. Today's live viewing experience is powered by Maestro, the premier marketing tech platform for broadcasters. All episodes of Admission Live are free and accessible in the video archives at higheredlive.com and in podcast format on iTunes. Today's episode is made possible by Chegg Enrollment Services. Are you ready to recruit the class of 2021? Learn where to focus your time and energy marketing to teens during Chegg's next free webinar. This will be the final live broadcast of the 2015 Research Myth-Busting Admissions, where prospects and professionals agree and disagree on enrollment marketing, messages, and channels. We'll tweet out a link now where you can sign up. So, let's get started. I'm really excited to guest host today's episode. I just think this is an amazing platform to discuss what I think is really a game changer in higher ed recruitment and also college selection for students and their parents. Micro scholarships to me seem like this kind of perfect storm, this initiative that really benefits every constituency it touches, whether that's colleges and universities, school counselors, the designers that are putting these platforms together, and certainly students and their parents. So today we're going to do a couple things. We're going to define the term micro scholarships. We're going to delve into their brief history and the motivation behind the program's origin. We're going to discuss potential recruitment and financial aid impact and learn more about the user-end experience from school counselors and hopefully students. To help me do that today, we have some amazing guests, and I would love to introduce them. George Kirkland is the co-founder and VP of Business Development at Raise.me. And we also have Julie Vivian, College Assistance Program Advisor for Terra Environmental Research Institute, which is part of the Miami-Dade County Public Schools in Florida. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Adam.
So why don't we jump right into it? For those of you that are watching along, please don't hesitate to ask any questions during the broadcast. You can do so by using hashtag HigherEdLive. We'll check that periodically during today's episode and get right to the questions if we can. So why don't we just kick this off with speaking a little bit to George. So George, I think what everybody wants to know is what exactly is a micro scholarship?
Yeah, absolutely. Great place to start. So a micro scholarship is a financial aid award that students can earn from colleges beginning in the 9th grade based on their individual achievements throughout high school. They can earn these micro scholarships really for doing anything that's going to better prepare them for college. So anything from getting an A in a class to taking a leadership role in their student government or taking a financial literacy module. These students can earn different amounts and accumulate different amounts of micro scholarships from various colleges depending on how academically qualified they are for that institution and how good a fit they are. Students can earn from some schools up to $20,000 per year in micro scholarships. And what those micro scholarships represent to students is the minimum amount of financial aid that they will get from that institution if they apply, get into, and matriculate to that specific school. Of course, students, when they apply, they might actually get more based on their financial aid forms and full transcripts, but this represents a minimum. And really, from a student's perspective, it's a much more transparent and motivational way to earn scholarships. I guess that's a good kind of high-level overview.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you give us maybe just 2 or 3 examples of scholarships that they can earn and for what?
Sure, absolutely. So we break them down into kind of 6 main areas. So one is getting grades in certain courses, doing well. Hello, Quincy. This is actually one of our students signing on right now.
So sorry, yeah. Got the chance. I was wrong on the time.
No problem, Quincy. We're answering a couple quick questions, and then we'll turn it over. Adam has some questions for you. So if you can mute, we'll get to some questions for you shortly.
Sure, sounds great. Okay.
So right now we're talking about micro scholarships and what kind of categories they fall into. So the first is grades, doing well in a course, getting an A or a B, even cumulative GPA. The second is course rigor, so taking certain courses, whether it be IP or AP or IB courses, even things like taking 3 years of a foreign language course. Students can also be awarded for test scores, extracurriculars, community service, and what we call honors and awards. So being an Eagle Scout or being part of Girls Boys State, and then finally things that help the student visit or interacting with a college at a summer program or a college fair.
Awesome, thank you. And let me take a moment to introduce Quincy Balius. She's a 10th grade student at Cascade High School in Cascade, Montana. So we're very happy to welcome her, and I'll certainly have some questions for you, Quincy, in just a few moments.
All right.
So George, I do want to talk about kind of what brought this idea of micro scholarships to life, and being a co-founder of Raise, you kind of brought this to market. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of those initial conversations which brought you to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Raise really got its start back in 2012, and it got its start when one of my co-founders, Preston Silverman, was teaching in India, and he kept hearing from students again and again that they were demotivated in high school. They felt like they weren't going to be able to afford college, or that college wasn't for them. And so it got us thinking, and we started asking ourselves a question, why is financial aid given out so late? The second semester of a student's senior year, which is too late to impact that student's college ambitions, or their their individual college application decisions. And so that's where the idea of the micro scholarship was born. And from there, we started doing all kinds of research on student engagement and performance, and looking at the research that's been done over the years. So we looked at pedagogy like rewarding inputs, not outputs. So awarding students for single grades instead of cumulative GPA. We looked at research on shortening the feedback loop, and we looked at research on making aid predictable. And we found that this idea of giving students aid earlier in high school would be a much more impactful and engaging and motivating way for them to earn scholarships. So using that research, we actually won a grant from the College Knowledge Challenge, which was sponsored by the Gates Foundation, and then we won $75 from the Penn Graduate School of Education, and that was the money that really helped us build this first platform, where students could earn micro scholarships as they progress through high school as early as the 9th grade. And when we thought about where to start, we had a couple options. We could start with corporations and foundations, or colleges, or even look at Pell Grants. And we thought, well, given the fact that colleges give out $50 billion a year, more than half of the aid given out to students each year, they would be a great place to start. And so we went to colleges, we started talking to them about the idea of giving out these micro scholarships to students and awarding them earlier in high school, and we just got a fantastic reception from them. And of course, there were actually colleges that had already started to think about the idea of micro scholarships. And so we started out with 10 colleges and about 10,000 students, and from there we quickly saw that many colleges really wanted to join the movement. They wanted to be part of something bigger, and they wanted to give out their scholarships in a way that played a positive impact and role in that student's development. And so that's kind of how we got started. We launched publicly in the summer of 2014 after being live in beta for about 7 months.
Wow, that's great, and that speaks to the point of this mutual benefit that I think this program does bring to the table. Now, last question for you before we move on. I definitely want to get perspectives from Julie and Quincy, but I'm really interested in this idea of a need for a disruption or a disruptor in higher education. We're hearing a lot about that now, particularly in the press and particularly with the presidential election. So I wanted to get your thoughts on where do you think this fits, the idea of micro scholarships and this type of initiative fits in the evolution of the college recruitment and college selection processes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we started this, we weren't necessarily thinking about, how can we disrupt an industry. We were just thinking about the students and, the impact that we could have on helping more students pursue their college ambitions. So that's kind of where it all started. And it ended up being quite disruptive just because of the way that scholarships have been given out for so long. For so long we've been giving scholarships to students at the end of high school, in a lot of cases based on a very simple rubric, based on SAT and GPA. But when we actually brought this idea to parents and students and teachers, the feedback was amazing. And they always told us, why haven't we been giving out scholarships this way the whole time? Why wasn't this around when I was young? And the same thing happened with enrollment managers. So when we went to talk to VPs of enrollment management, they said, I can't believe that I've been doing this for 30 years and I didn't think of this. It was right there kind of in front of us the whole time. And so when we were getting those reactions in our meetings, we realized what a big opportunity this was. And the opportunity is really about helping students think about college earlier, and helping them understand the impact of their everyday activities and providing support to those students that don't have support and don't have someone telling them and coaching them on what to do every step of the way.
Awesome. Yeah, completely agree. I was one of those vice presidents for enrollment management that said, should have figured this out, 5-10 years ago, if not sooner. But that's fantastic. So let's go. I want to go into the school now. So I definitely want to talk to Julie, who works with students every single day, college-bound students. So, Julie, can you tell us how you first learned about micro scholarships?
Absolutely. Well, actually, it was kind of funny. Right before the school year began, I had a couple of students and parents walk into the office saying, I've heard about this. What is it? And in all honesty, I was unfamiliar with it. I thought, well, I don't know. It almost sounds too good to be true. Let me get back to you, but let me give you our more traditional scholarship routes, or don't forget this application, or why don't you try this one that, we know everybody gets. And so about a week after that, I was part of a workshop sponsored by our local state university, Florida International, a big part of Raise.me. And the director of financial aid gave a presentation on this, and I thought, that's the same thing those kids were. Get out. So a couple hours later, I'm Googling the heck out of it, making a few phone calls, and I thought, this is a big deal. This is huge. And so now instead of my kids being forced to write an application or 15 essays, sending it off and never hearing from anything ever again, they can see in their little screen, ba-bing, ba-bing, dollar amounts for the activities that they're currently involved in. So I ran with it, email blasted, presented into classes, and within a few weeks, the feedback was incredibly positive from students looking at schools that they've never even heard of or extended themselves to the money that they were getting based on that. So it was a huge deal that our kids were really, really proud to be part of, and it's continued to be that way throughout the year.
Awesome. Can you give us some examples on how you're currently using Raise.me in your individual counseling sessions?
Oh, absolutely. So as anybody can guess, understandably, the main question people get isn't as much how do I get into the school, but how am I going to pay for it? So much so that kids and parents are more worried about how they're going to afford a school than they are the actual admissions process. So I have to back it up. You got to get in first. But this has been a big part. And well, let's see what you've done. Let's see the schools that you follow on Raise. Let's look and see how you compare to some of their student profiles. Would you want to go there? Could you? Look at what they're starting you off with, just with you doing what you've already done since the beginning. So it's my go-to scholarship site for the most part. And I've even started going into some of the younger classes saying, you know, start now. I know you're not thinking about your applications for 3 more years because you're only a freshman, but let's start logging your activities. Let's start logging your grades so that you have a better idea going into this process in a few very stressful years, what you can look forward to, again, from the school profiles to what different schools deem valuable. And so we've got younger kids now excited to see their grades at the end of the quarter so they can plug them in and see what it's worth to somebody. So it's moved beyond just the regular senior year timeline of how do I get money into the younger kids going, oh, all right, well, look what I've done. And now it's worth something to somewhere that I may not have thought of before. So it's a basic part of our financial aid process now.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of the value proposition here, right? So I definitely wanted to hear from you in terms of timeline. You did mention it, but I mean, do you see more 9th graders and 10th graders, you know, really serious and talking about college visits and researching colleges because of this program?
Absolutely, and even not just researching colleges, but eager to challenge themselves a bit more in our course curriculum here at the school, where maybe they might have needed some talking into to take another AP class, but when they realize, one, I can do this, schools appreciate it, I want to do well, it gives them sort of that bonus of challenging themselves to do more, be a better student, focus more, because now a school that I hadn't ever thought of, that was never on my radar, is interested in something like this. And so, like I mentioned, and as early as the 9th graders, and they're still 9th graders, they're still not, as I completely bless it, they're not interested or, you know, as rushed, and they shouldn't be. They're still young, but to be able to start logging and tracking these accomplishments with the idea going forward that look at all of these schools that I can now think about and may ultimately reward me for being just a decent or challenging student, has changed the game quite a bit for a much younger group of students.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's only natural. And so we talked about 9th graders, so let's talk to a 10th grader. Quincy, thank you for joining us. A couple questions for you. So are you currently actively using Grades.me?
I am, yes. I just finished putting in all my 4th quarter grades, so I have all my grades in there, and I'm sort of getting the scholarships that new colleges are offering based on what my grades are right now, and it's exciting to look at because I get to see how my sophomore year is played out in terms of the money I'm earning for college.
Great. And so can you give us an idea of, you know, how many schools you're following? What kind of scholarships have you gotten thus far?
Sure. I currently follow about 15 schools, and not all of them actually are with Raise.me right now. There are a couple like Stanford and Duke and some of the more like Ivy League schools that aren't actually part of Raise.me yet, but I'm following them in the knowledge that hopefully they will be on Raise.me soon, with fingers crossed. But right now I'm following about 13 that actually are with Raise.me, so I'm following schools like Cornell and Loyola Marymount and things like that. And going through Cornell is actually the one that Cornell College, not university, is actually the one that I've earned the most scholarships from right now, and I have $53,570 from that school, which is about $14,000 a year, 13 and a half. So that's really nice, and I'm just a sophomore, so I have a lot more time to add to my portfolio and earn more scholarships. And they give me $750 for each A that I earn in a core course, which is awesome because I'm a straight A student, and being able to earn that much money for the grades that I get anyway is amazing.
Nice. Well, you just gave George a list of people to call after we're done here, so that's fantastic. So, you know, you're a perfect example here. So you're a prospective college student, and colleges are certainly going to be recruiting you over the next couple years. So as a prospective college student, do you think you're more inclined to raise your hand to a school that is offering micro scholarships through this platform over one that is not?
Definitely, yes. Raise.me gave me a lot of opportunities to consider schools that I hadn't even thought of before, hadn't even seen before, and learn more about their schools. And if a school's going to give you money so that you can go and you don't have to pay the, you know, $40,000, $50,000 a year, that's a huge opportunity. And being able to get my education for less money is really important to me. So I definitely have followed a lot of schools that I hadn't considered before because they were on Raise.me and offered me micro scholarships.
And I think that's an incredibly important point. Coming from a college perspective, I think one of the things that we kind of get caught in recruitment is kind of this, 730-day recruitment cycle, this 2-year cycle that we're trying to bring in students. And so I can tell you from personal experience that the vast majority of my inquiries and interest is coming in early junior year to the beginning of senior year. And with a program like this, you can see demonstrated interest, which is probably the most important thing we can do for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, by students raising their hand, whether it's passive or not, because they're not communicating directly to you, they're going through this Raise.me platform, but being able to identify those students is really invaluable for colleges. So I think from that perspective, it is very beneficial, and it's very much a two-way street, and benefits the students as well. So Quincy, I think one of the challenges here, and I think one of the things that we want to come out of this program, is it really empowers students to start their college search earlier and do better in school. How has being part of this changed your outlook of being a college-bound student, and also has it improved your performance?
Well, I've always been the type of girl who, instead of planning her wedding, was planning which college she was going to go to. So from the time I knew what college was, I was like, yes, I'm going to go to Harvard, I'm going to go to Stanford. And then my parents were like, hey, it's kind of a lot of money to go there. So over the years, my perspective on college has definitely shifted, and finding Raise.me was amazing because it gave me the chance to explore other schools that I might be able to afford more easily, that my family might be able to afford, and just learn more about what school fits me better. I think it definitely empowers people to change their opinions on college, maybe feel like they have more opportunity. Especially where I live, rural Montana, there's some kids who don't even think of going to college. They're just straight into farming, right into ranching. They don't even consider higher education or a different career. So I think Raise.me is really important in that area. And then the second part of your question, which I'm currently not recalling, could you repeat it?
You're on mute,
Yeah.
Adam.
Sorry about that. So have you seen an improvement in your grades? Have you been more inclined to join clubs or do volunteer work, those type of things?
Definitely impacted my volunteer work. I really wanted to volunteer more, but I couldn't find the time, or I was always pushing it to the side of my schedule. But understanding how much Raise.me rewards that, or colleges will reward that, definitely helped me prioritize it and make sure that volunteering was a big part of my life. And I'm really enjoying it. I love volunteering, so it's great to be able to do that more. And for the most part, I've always been a straight A student, so Raise.me hasn't really impacted my grades, but it has driven me to take more AP courses because I know that that'll help my college credit and the amount of money that I earn from colleges.
Awesome, thank you. So I do want to go to Twitter quickly. So we got our first Twitter question. And the question really would be directed to you, George, and it comes from Jay Stefanelli. Are micro scholarships available for graduate students? If not, is there a plan to move in that direction at some point?
That's a good question. Thanks for bringing that up. You know, right now we're completely focused on first-time students that are going to college. As you can imagine, we've had all kinds of derivatives of micro scholarships mentioned to us along the way. So allowing transfer students to earn micro scholarships so that they can do a 2+2 program. And of course graduate students, and so that is all very exciting and is something that is really there's a need for that. Even with adult learners, we've had a lot of people come to us and say, well, what about an adult learner that wants to go back to school and they're not in high school? Should there be an opportunity for them? And so we have, you know, ambitions to help students at all levels of educational attainment, and so there's definitely an opportunity there. I can't make any promises on when it's going to happen, but I think there's a need for it, and it's not too far down the road in the product development pipeline.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, great question. And anybody else out there listening, if you want to ask a question and have it read on air, just do hashtag #HigherEdLive, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. So let's move back to Julie, because we definitely want to talk parents, because I think everybody wants to know how parents are reacting to this program.
Oh, well, a big push of any college application, as much as the kids like to think they're in control, are the parents. And so often I have students who come in and they're being driven by the parents who say, try this, go for this program, I heard this. Some of it's factual, some of it's a bit off. And so as soon as parents realize, oh my goodness, look what my child can get at this school for doing this activity, the kids usually come in going, is that true? So as a voice, I hope, of authority, I can sort of back that up. But parents are now, again, opening up even their sort of short-sighted horizons to see that there are other schools here where what my son or daughter has done is valued somewhere else. And as I tell the parents and the kids, standard, you're going to go to the school that you get into that you can afford. And so any little bit that can help add to that is what has the parents jumping on board with this as well. The other thing that I think it's important to note is I found a lot of buy-in with the middle income earners. And so not necessarily the high or the low, but the gray area, if you will, the parents who both work and they work hard. And so they're sort of priced out of financial need and yet still can't afford even some very common state tuitions or housing that goes with it. And so this, as a merit scholarship, has helped quite a bit of the gray area, the middle income earners, where they realize this can supplement whatever we've saved or not, whatever state tuition we can afford or not, simply based on the fact that my son or daughter is a devoted student who's tried their hardest, eager to help the community, not because of the money, but because they're that kind of student anyway, and that sort of filled the gap between the amount that they need to make a college dream really happen. So the parents are all over it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think you mentioned middle income families, but I think also for that student that's kind of caught in between in terms of their academic profile. So they're good enough to be college bound, they're ready, they're motivated, but they're not necessarily in that merit scholarship range in terms of their GPA and SAT or ACT score. So I think the addition of things like community service, things like joining a varsity sport, perfect attendance, things you can earn scholarships to those ends, I think are really important. I think it'll play a large part also with colleges to maybe take a chance on a student that may be, a borderline candidate for admission, but you're seeing the intangibles, you're seeing the motivation kind of coming through with not only just signing up and accumulating scholarships over the 4 years of high school, but also kind of going above and beyond in terms of service and leadership qualities, which I think, colleges, especially I'm at a small college, and that's something we really look for. So I kind of want to talk a little bit of a more controversial issue that's coming up in the high schools now, particularly with college recruitment, and that's the idea of schools and the admission process lessening kind of that cutthroat nature of college admissions and kind of stepping over one another to get into that elite school or that reach school. The resume wars between students, etc. So do you think a scholarship program like a micro scholarship program can add to that stress level and maybe even make it a more competitive environment?
I've heard a few people ask me about this, mostly parents going, great, it's just one more thing I have to worry about my student doing. But very soon, once they see the platform, they realize it's not a matter of that. The kids who are going to do these things have done them anyway. And if we're already talking about the cutthroat admissions of some of the elite universities, these kids have been doing these activities anyway. So it's not like there's a dangling carrot where they think, oh, now if only I was in this honor society, that's the catalyst. It's not that way. If anything, it just rewards the students who are already involved, or might be that little extra bit of a kick that a student who is on the fence about joining a club because it might take away from academics, about taking that one extra AP class because they're not worried about how well they'll do. This is the mitigating factor in them stepping it up, and not necessarily as a competitive factor, because that competition is there already with test scores and the schedule rigor and the extracurricular activity. So this isn't going to make or break anything. It's just simply rewarding those kids already either doing it or interested in maybe becoming involved. So I have not seen this as a stressor for anyone, honestly.
Well, that's great. And George, in development of this platform, did that come up in conversation? Is that something that you were worried about?
I just have to echo what Julie said. She knows better than anyone. She's talking to the students, and of course Quincy. with her reaction to raise. It's something that's really fun to do for students, and it's not required that they create a profile. So when we looked at the college landscape and earning scholarships, we thought that was stressful, actually not figuring out what your scholarships were going to be until the very end of the process, and then a lot of times only earning them based on two very specific metrics, SAT and GPA. And so what we hear from high school counselors and from students is that this is a much more empowering way for students to earn scholarships, and that they're getting scholarships from schools that for the things that they're doing that make them a good match for that school. So getting a micro scholarship from SUNY ESF or College of the Atlantic for being an Eagle Scout, because they were going to be an Eagle Scout anyway, but those schools really value that, or getting micro scholarships from Cornell College or Tulane because you do a lot of community service, things that are very core to the mission of those schools. So this is it's a really fun way and for students to earn scholarships and prepare for college. And we actually hear in a lot of cases that when high school guidance counselors introduce students to it, they end up signing on themselves later in the semester and putting in their grades. It's not something that they're asked to do, or that they have to be reminded like they have to with some of the other tools that they're using. And so that's just great to see that it's something that they elect to do, that it's not necessarily forced on them as part of the college prep process.
Absolutely. Great. So I want to go back to Twitter because we do have another question. This one's directed to me, but I definitely would like to hear from the panel if you have any thoughts. So what impact has micro scholarships had on the yield and enrollment of students at Bloomfield, which is my institution? And I will say that we're our new partner with Raise.me. We're really excited about it. We've been live in full force for about 2 months. So we won't see the recruitment impact until really the fall 2017 incoming class. But what I've been kind of really excited about is the sheer number of students that's following the institution. And within 2 months, we have 3,000 students following Bloomfield. If you don't know anything about Bloomfield College, we have a total enrollment of 2,000 students. My typical inquiry pool for an incoming class is somewhere around 14,000. So to have 3,000 students in this one platform already engaged is really exciting. So Chris Cohen, we talk often, and I will make sure I'll give you an update as we get closer to seating that fall 2017 class. But we're really excited about the impact that this program can have on our recruitment and our yield going forward. So I think
I can talk to that if you'd like an answer from our current partners, Adam.
Please.
So overall, about across 50 case studies, we've seen the admit rate on RAISE students at 84% compared to a typical cohort admit rate of 60%. So we see students being admitted at a much higher rate, and because they're doing the things along the way to better prepare for college. They're following their GPA. They're doing more clubs. They're being recognized for more than just their test scores and GPA. They're also being recognized for having high marks there as well. In terms of yield, we see RAISE students on average yield at 53% compared to the typical students yielding at that school at around 30%. So we see 23% higher on the yield rates. And so across the board, just fantastic results. This is something that builds over time, and so Bloomfield will see that next year. But that includes over 50 case studies that we've aggregated together. So when you look at them individually, they all kind of tell that same story.
Awesome. And just a follow-up question for this for Julie is, when you talk about the idea of reach institutions, safety institutions, when you're going through the college selection process, has Raise.me changed any of those type of discussions? I mean, as George mentioned, are you just seeing more students kind of find their fit earlier?
Well, as you know, with any reach, match, or safety school, there's still a number of criteria that have to be met to be admitted. But what I have found is some students going, oh, I just don't think I can even apply there. Even as a reach, there's no way I can afford that. Now they're starting to reconsider. Well, maybe just a little bit can be the difference needed. So I found them to be a little bit more motivated to apply to schools that they may feel are reach schools, or ones, again, that they just haven't thought about, that their parents just weren't thinking about letting them go that far away. But when you see that dollar amount pop up on the screen saying, oh, before we even talk about possible financial aid, we already know you're getting this based on what you've done, that's encouraged them to apply. And it's not just a matter of reach, match, or safety, but it's a matter of how they're going to pay for it when they get there. And even nominal amounts, I mean, you just have to chip away. So when kids are so either eager to take out loans or very hesitant to take out loans, this amount, albeit tiny or larger depending on how involved they've been, is enough to encourage kids. Well, let me just try. Let's see, and we'll let it all fall out after, but let's keep it going. And one other thing I wanted to mention that you had brought up before is it's not easy to be an Eagle Scout. It's not easy to get an A or be in an AP class. And so it's not like these kids are deciding to do these things just because it's a dollar amount. These are intense commitments. So if that is the reason, the time isn't even there. So for the kids who are truly doing these, again, it's just a matter of rewarding them. And at the end of the day, if a kid took an AP class, studied, and got an A or a B, and it was only for raise, well, the fallout from that is, look what you just did. You've got college credit. You've got an A or B in a class you never thought you did. So if that happens to be a repercussion, then it's a good one at that. So I thought I'd throw that in there.
I can't tell you're passionate about this at all, so that's a good thing. No, thank you for that.
No, we don't talk about this every day at all. So
that is fantastic. So Quincy, I have a crazy idea for you. So we're talking a lot of, obviously, college affordability, huge issue in the presidential election. Bernie Sanders is, touting, free college for everybody. So it's out there, right? And I'm sure students are talking a lot about it. So what about this for a crazy idea? A college signs up with a micro scholarship program. We eliminate all fees, comprehensive fees, orientation fees, all these crazy things that students end up paying that are not part of the quote-unquote sticker price, and we lock in tuition. So it's the tuition you come in at is the tuition you're going to pay each of your 4 years as you go to a bachelor's degree. Is that the perfect storm of college affordability? Sure, it doesn't bring down the price, but certainly makes things more transparent. No? What do you think?
I would agree with you on that. I think it's really important to know exactly what you're going to get from a college. I know that's really changed my views on what college I might end up going to. It's obviously important to get a college that you're going to get a great education from, that fits your major and your career. But if you know what you're going to get from a college in terms of financial aid, if you know exactly what they value about you, if you know that, hey, I'm a volunteer, I love doing volunteer service, they're going to give me this much money for that, it's really helped me understand more about colleges as well as what college I want to eventually end up going to. And I would agree. I would call it definitely the perfect storm. If you can get a college to cost a lot less and you can eliminate fees and even just understand more about what a college values, even if it's not less money in terms of tuition, I think that's very important. And I would definitely agree it's a great thing to have for a prospective college student.
Okay, great. Back to you, George. We want to talk about, after launching this great program, seeing some results. You talked about some of the results from the colleges, which have been really strong to this point. Have you seen any unintended benefits, challenges from after launch that you didn't really expect?
I wouldn't say that there have been any huge unintended benefits. What we've really seen is a validation of our thinking. And when we got started, we started with 10 colleges and 10,000 students. And we thought, wow, how are we going to find these 10 colleges? And how are we going to get 10,000 students to sign up? And then, since launching publicly in the summer of 2014, we've grown to over 325,000 students and 165 colleges. We're adding 3 colleges per week, 1,000 to 2,000 students per day. So we'll end the year with about 1 million students. So we've just been humbled by the reaction from both the colleges, the students, and the parents and the counselors. And so there's been a lot of validation. This started out as an initial grant from the College Knowledge Challenge and an idea, and it's actually grown into something real. You know, when we walk into the office and there's 26 people there working hard at this, it's just amazing to think that back in 2014 there were only, or 2012 there were only 2 or 3 of us with this initial thought. So I would say, to give you one specific example to answer your question, we are seeing colleges actually go out and fundraise against this. So when we initially started RAISE, the whole idea was, let's increase the impact of the existing scholarship dollars that are there, and make it a more motivational, engaging experience. But what we've actually seen colleges do is, with a 2 to 3 page deck and information on how microscholarships work and how motivational they are, and some student stories, they can go talk to some of their alumni and some of their donors, and they can actually use it as a way to raise more funds and actually give more scholarships. So now they're actually able to not just give out existing scholarships through RAISE, but to give out more and close that gap. And we've seen that happen successfully with 3 or 4 of our college partners, and we hope to see that more in the future, so we can actually tackle that affordability gap problem as well in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I do want to go to Twitter really quick, because I have 2 comments that I just have to share, and one is "Quincy is awesome!" exclamation point, which I completely agree with. And then the second is "loving all the Eagle Scout love." There you go. We'll have to tag the Eagle Scouts when we're done here to let them know that they got some shout outs today. My staff constantly reminds me when I'm doing recruitment events or open houses or anything like that parents and students don't want to hear me. They want to hear from our students. So I definitely want to give kind of the final floor to Quincy to kind of maybe tell prospective students and parents that are thinking about kind of dipping their toe into the micro scholarship world. What are some last words of advice that you give them?
Well, first I want to say to whoever said I was awesome on Twitter, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I just say, my only advice is go for it. You have a chance to make college cost less and understand more about where your scholarship money is coming from, what scholarships are offered to you by what colleges, and it's really fun, it's really engaging. As George was talking about earlier, it's really motivating to know, hey, I've got this AP course, I know exactly what this college is going to give me for it, I understand how hard I need to work, and as Julie was saying earlier, it's stuff that you would already be doing. If you're a straight A student, or even if you're a B student or less, you have the opportunity to earn money from colleges and understand more about where your scholarships are coming from, and it's a great experience. I'd say definitely don't dip your toe in, go all the way in, swim for it, and soon you're going to reach the shore of a college education. It's going to be amazing, and you're going to know a lot more about your scholarships and what you've earned from colleges, and you're going to be able to pick the perfect college.
I don't see how we can end on anything better than that. I definitely want to thank probably the most polished 10th grader I've ever met, Quincy, on joining us today. Julie, thank you so much for providing your insight from inside the classroom and inside the high school. I can see it behind you there. And then George from the West Coast, thank you so much for bringing your expertise. I encourage everybody to check out the RAISE website, which is at www.raise.me. Poke around, try to learn more about micro scholarships. They've gotten some great press from the New York Times, from NPR, and there's some links to some news articles and videos on their website. Again, continue the conversation by hashtag HigherEdLive. We'll be happy to jump online and answer any additional questions that you may have. I just want to say this has been an absolute blast. I want to thank, as always, in Higher Ed Live, to the program sponsor, which is Chegg. And I hope I get to do this again. Goodbye for now. Go out there, make positive change for yourself, for students, and the field. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.